Thanks very much. And on behalf of our board and, of course, the social workers that we represent across Canada, thank you for inviting the Canadian Association of Social Workers to this consultation. So social workers know that when people are supported out of poverty, they're happier and healthier, but it's reflected in the economy too. Dollars in the pockets of Canadians means more spent in small businesses and in local economies. And that's why our first recommendation is the adoption of a universal basic income guarantee, what we call the UBIG, which we think has the potential to be the next leap forward for Canada. The cost of current income support programs in Canada is close to $200 billion per year. But these are piecemeal, onerous, stigmatizing, they vary from province to province, and ultimately they are unsuccessful at breaking the cycle of poverty. We know that right now there are 1.2 million children living in poverty in our country. Until this point, basic income plans in North America have been built around the negative income tax model, which can create the so-called benefit trap by making work unattractive. In the model we're proposing, the benefit trap doesn't exist because everyone is awarded the same benefit with wealth redistributed through progressive taxation. A UBIG model would support the social determinants of health and alleviate administrative burden in the long term. This government has demonstrated that it knows income is important, for instance with their Canada Child benefit, and we know that lifting people out of poverty helps keep them healthy, reducing costs in healthcare, improving mental health, which could in turn help address absenteeism and presenteeism that are big issues for workplace productivity. So of course, careful design and implementation that involves all levels of government and includes First Nations is going to be crucial. But we do believe that a UBIG is a cost-effective and socially responsible mechanism through which Canada can ensure dignity for all. We recommend that the federal government take a leadership role in researching and implementing a UBIG, and this would move us from a safety net to a floor on which all Canadians can stand, and it's also how we can grow Canada from the inside. In fact, a recent macroeconomic study by the Roosevelt Institute in the US found that a universal basic income benefit of $1,000 per citizen per month would grow the US economy by $2.5 trillion. As an aside, we are releasing a paper on UBIG that outlines some more of this in November, and I would be happy to share that with the clerk once it's published. We propose that the UBIG be delivered through the lens of our second recommendation, which is the adoption of a new Social Care Act for Canada, which will be made up of 10 principles, not conditions, but principles similar to those of the Canada Health Act. So, for instance, public administration, fairness, and portability, to name a few, which would help guide the Canada social transfer and future social investments. Again, this government has demonstrated that it cares about equity and accountability, for instance, through its bilateral agreements that included the Common Statement of Principles on Shared Health Priorities. And the act we're proposing will help create the kind of accountability that the government is looking for. It would also help guide the provinces and territories in developing policies that best fit their unique needs, while helping the federal government to understand where the dollars are actually being spent in the provinces. It would help foster dialogue around shared issues and best practices, and help produce comparable outcomes across the country. Our final recommendation is specific to the profession. We recommend that social workers in rural and remote regions be eligible for the Canada Student Loan Forgiveness Program. A 2012 CAI report on rural and remote care in Canada showed that of 11 countries, Canadians waited the longest for care. And in light of our particular context in which Indigenous communities are often located in rural and remote contexts, already underserved populations are made even more vulnerable. Social workers are highly trained professionals capable of offering many of the same services as other professions, but often at a lower cost. And with their broad skill sets, they provide great value. They can provide casework, assessment, therapeutic counseling. Additionally, many communities struggle to retain their mental health professionals, experiencing that cycling in and out of service providers. So in light of that, eligibility for student loan forgiveness would support social workers to practice in, to stay in, and often to return home to rural and remote communities. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to questions.
Thank you very much, and yes, we'd appreciate that document when